Welcome, Wiz Nation. Welcome back to State of the Wiz. I'm your host, D-Can, along with my man, K. Jose. And today's episode of State of the Wiz, we have some things that we want to discuss. K. Jose, if you want to go ahead and give your shout out for your podcast.
Definitely follow me on IG, follow me on Twitter at DC Hoopla. Also subscribe to my YouTube channel, DC Hoopla, as well.
Cool. So, for those who are just tuning in to State of the Wiz for the first time, thank you guys for checking us out. Thank you guys for subscribing to our State of the Wiz YouTube. Also, check out the first two episodes of State of the Wiz. We covered a lot in our first two episodes. Of course, we're in the off season, so it's not much basketball going on right now for the Wizards. But, today, the schedule was released. So we can talk about that. Also, we're going to cover, again, the roster. So we'll go player by player today. We'll discuss that. But before we get started, yes, please go subscribe to Wiz Takes podcast and also follow me on Twitter at Wizards Mafia. All right. So let's go ahead and get into it. So K. Jose, how do you feel about the roster? The roster as constructed?
All right, if you don't mind, pull that roster up so I can kind of go down the list of the players because there's quite a few things I'm going to talk about on there. I'm going to try not to be too long-winded, though. All right, appreciate that, my dude. So, interesting by looking at the roster is one of the things that stand out is the first player, which is Denny Avdia. And his position is now at shooting guard, which is kind of funny because I thought about that. So if I'm looking at the roster, how the way it is, it's kind of giving me an idea of what the starting lineup is going to be, which would be Dinwiddie at the 1, Denny at the 2. I'm going to assume that Rui will be playing the 3. Then maybe we will have I would think it would be smart to have Montrez O'hara playing the 4. And then, of course, you got Daniel Gafford playing the 5. But when I'm looking at how the roster is constructed, another thing that stands out to me, and I have to stress this, is the amount of restricted free agents that we have in 2022 after the season's over with. That's Anthony Gill, Jordan Goodwin. We don't know if he's going to make the roster or not. Aaron Holiday, who we traded for. Jay Huff, I'm going to automatically say he probably won't make the team. But this is where I guess everybody's talking about the cap flexibility because most of these guys that has these restricted free agents, 9 times out of 10, we're probably going to hit them with a qualifying offer just to let these guys go sign somewhere else and kind of walk away, but it'll give us this flexibility. But when I look at this team, how it's constructed, it's mediocre at best. Maybe if they make the playoffs, a first round exit. I seriously doubt this team can make it to the second round. And by looking at it, I do believe we're going to start the season off very, very slow, losing a lot of games. And I'm not going to be mad if we are because I don't really expect us to be that great. But if this roster starts in October, I can't see a playoff team.
Okay. Fair enough. So, obviously the schedule coming out today, that plays a huge part in,
Right.
How we play, we see who we're up against, how well we play throughout the season, month to month. We'll have a easy stretch of the schedule. We'll have a tough stretch of the schedule. We'll cover that in a minute. But before we do, let's talk about line by line each player and what they actually bring to the table and what you think they'll bring to the table this upcoming season. So you said Denny Avdia, shooting guard. So, with him being at the shooting guard position, now he's playing behind Bradley Beal. We already know
Right.
if that's going to be the position we have him in. What type of role does Denny Abdia play playing behind Bradley Beal?
Damn, how foolish of me, because I actually didn't even include Bradley Beal in the starting lineup. But I just now thought about that. To be honest with you, I don't know how I feel about this move, putting him at the 2, because you're playing him out of position. We've stressed this. Denny Abdia is clearly a point forward. I'm going to reserve my right to not really call out Wes Unseld Jr. for this, because this is just on Real GM. But seeing him at the 2 guard spot, I don't know how I feel about that, because it's almost like we're still trying to make him be something that he's not.
Okay. So my opinion on this is I think that Denny Abdia will finally get an opportunity to bring the ball up the court.
Okay.
Scott Brooks made it a point to only make Denny a spot shooter. And so because Russell Westbrook commanded the ball so much, as soon as there was a miss and the miss from the opposing team's player, and let's say Denny Abdia or anyone grabs the rebound, Russell Westbrook is right there commanding the basketball. So now at this point, under Wes Unseld Jr.'s tutelage and under his system, I have a feeling that this move was made because instead of it being just a one-man dominant offense where you have the point guard commanding so much attention and wanting the ball as soon as the team grabs the rebound, now at this point, Denny, hey, if you get the rebound, push it up the floor, get the offense going yourself. Transition buckets are going to be very important for this team this season because of the simple fact that we're not going to be a great half court team. We're not going to want to be that team anymore in the half court where it's 1 or 2 passes and shoot the ball.
So that brings up a very interesting point.
Yeah, so pushing the ball, getting out in transition, it's going to be very important for this team this year.
Okay, so let me ask you that, because we'll stay on the transition piece. Being so, we know that when Westbrook was on the team, Westbrook was the type that wanted to push the tempo as soon as the ball was rebounded. He's ready to make a quick bucket. Mm-hmm. Now, are you expecting that out of, and I don't mean to jump ahead, but I'm going to have to, particularly point to this particular player. Are you expecting Spencer Dinwiddie to push the tempo, or do you think he's going to bring some type of different dynamic to the offense?
Well, Spencer Dinwiddie is going to be, and we'll get to him because, he's further down the list. But to answer your question, Spencer Dinwiddie will be a guy who 9 times out of 10 is just going to pick his spots on the floor. Like I said, he's going to be the guard that he's not a facilitate first type of point guard. He's the type of point guard where he's going to pick his spots on the floor. He's going to need that high pick and roll. He's going to need that high screen to do work, and he's going to attack the basket. So one thing that I remember him being as a net was it was hard for us to defend him on that high screen, that high pick and roll, because every time he'd get anywhere between free throw line extended, he's hitting that shot, or anytime he gets deep in the paint, he hits the floater. None of that changes in Dinwiddie's game at all.
Okay.
But again, we'll get to him because he's further down the list. How about let's go down to Bradley Beal? What does Bradley Beal give us this year?
Well, Bradley Beal is going to be Bradley Beal. What I'm hoping to see a lot more of from him this upcoming season versus what I saw last season is him being more of a leader, him actually trying to lead by example, him actually playing better defense, not really so focused on getting his buckets. We already know he can score at will, but what we don't know is can he actually play solid defense for a change? We have seen him do that, but of course, he had the former face of the franchise beside him and John Wall that, pretty much commanded that his teammates play defense. Now you're the face of the franchise and everything kind of goes based off of what you do. So what I'm going to be expecting him to do is be more of a leader, be more vocal, lead by example, tell his teammates where they need to be. Just be that, because that's have been a question mark about him for the past 3 seasons. Can he be more of a leader, a true leader? I'm not talking about leading and scoring. I'm not talking about just, doing everything else. I'm talking about literally putting the franchise on your back the way John Wall did, and you actually lead this team to the next level. Can he do that? And at this moment, I'm going to stick with what I've always said, which is the answer is no. He has to show me that he can do that. And that's what I'm going to be expecting from him this season. Really, the first half of the season, I'm going to be expecting that from him. Show me that you can actually be the leader that you claim that you are.
Look, I can't disagree with anything you're saying. I think you and I have had this conversation plenty of times offline. Bradley Beal is a great offensive scorer, no doubt about it. What he brings to the table is the ability to get any shot he wants on the basketball court. He's become a slasher. He's become a great pick and pop guy off the screens. I mean, you name it, he can do it offensively. The problem with Bradley Beal is that he doesn't bring the same intensity offensively on the defensive end. And so guess what? Sometimes your teammates see that. Sometimes your teammates, you're leading by example. So they look at it like, well, if all he cares about is scoring the basketball, then that's all I'm gonna care about. Right. If Bradley Beal's putting up 40, my job is just to make sure he get the basketball and get the hell out of his way so he can get his points.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, if I'm not defending, who cares? Because Bradley Beal's gonna make up for it on the offensive end. So right. The problem is that sometimes scoring the basketball can be a problem defensively because of the fact that if you're allowing the opposing team to come down and do what they want to do, it's okay because we'll just make up for it on the offensive end. We've seen it the last 2 seasons. It's shameful how Bradley Beal could put up 45 points, put up 58 points, 59, whatever. It's shameful that he puts up that amount of points and we still lose the game.
Yep.
It's absolutely shameful. So bottom line is that can't happen this season. Hopefully Bradley Beal watches this show and he see that, what we're saying about him is just constructive. Like we're not being haters. We're not criticizing you in a way where it's degrading your game. We're giving you credit, but we're giving you constructive criticism at the same time.
Exactly.
All right, so let's move on to Davis Bertans.
Well, with Davis Bertans, I mean, the only thing I'm expecting him to do is to mimic a little bit of what he did in 2019 to 2020 season. Come out there, be the shooter that you are. We'll be asking for too much for him to be a defender because he's never been a defender. Hopefully he's healthy this upcoming season. He should be. I think he played in the Olympics with his team, that he's also in shape. And he just continues to be a serviceable three-point specialist. Now, of course, in my opinion, I won't be surprised if he's moved because we do have a log jam with the forwards. But for the time being, because he's a wizard, what I'm expecting him to come out there do is just be Davis Bertans, hit the threes when we need them, be consistent and try to play a little bit of defense, but I'm not expecting him to because that's just never been his game.
Understood. My take on Davis Bertans, hey, just be there. Just be a body out there that can, if you are challenged defensively, you can still take the charge. You can still slide your feet, be in front of your man. We're not asking you to be, Kawhi Leonard, lockdown 2-time defensive player of the year. That's not what we're asking you to do. Just go out there and just be a reliable body. And I think the slow start last year really hurt him and his confidence, and you could see it throughout the season. That also was a major reason why we had a slow start. Had Davis Bertans been playing, phenomenal through the roof basketball, a lot of those close games we lost earlier last season, we would have won those games.
Right.
So, his confidence and the way he plays and his involvement is extremely important this season for sure.
I agree.
All right, so Thomas Bryant, what we got for my man's comeback season?
Well, for Thomas Bryant, I mean, he's coming off of an ACL injury. I've seen some highlights of him shooting around, but with him, he has to get his feet up under him. He has to build his confidence up. I mean, an ACL injury, that's all mental when you're coming back from an injury like that. Now, what we do know when he's healthy, he is an energy guy. What we also saw a little bit of from last season was offensively, he's actually improved. He's added a three-point shot to his game. I would like to see him shoot that a little bit less. I like to see him kind of mix it up a little bit, get in the paint, become a better rebounder. Now, last season, if I'm correct, I think he was averaging somewhere close to 10 boards a game. But I'm just expecting him to get healthy, because we're talking about an ACL injury. And of course, we're going to be talking about another player who's recovering from that as well. I'm just expecting him to be healthy, come in there, contribute, and help us win ball games.
Okay. I agree with you. I think that, the only thing is with Thomas Bryant is this right here. Now, you and I both know, no matter what happens this season, he could give us the best season of his career. He could come out and be unstoppable. We say to ourselves, man, this man is really playing at the highest level. Okay. Right. He's doing it. Why? Because 9 times out of 10, he's an unrestricted free agent after next season. So,
right.
What's the big highlight for someone like Thomas Bryant? It's a sink or swim. It's a sink or swim season for him. Like,
that's very true.
If he doesn't come out and play at a high level and he's becoming a free agent, he doesn't get the contract that he wants. If he comes out and plays at the level that he expects to play at and he's exceeding expectations, then the Wizards are going to have to, face a reality point that, all right, you got Bradley Beal's extension coming up and you got Thomas Bryant's contract coming up. So, you're going to have to think about this. You have to think about the fact that, Thomas Bryant is going to be an unrestricted free agent. No matter what happens this season, after this year, we have to make a decision on Thomas Bryant.
That's true.
And so, where I'm at, I think what he's going to give us this season, I think he's going to give us high energy like he did last season. He may not have the same explosiveness right out the gate, but maybe as the season goes along, he'll start to, that explosiveness start to come back. Look, I'll be honest with you. I don't have a problem with Thomas Bryant's game at all. I thought that he did a great job up until his injury, really improving every year. The only thing is that his game, what is it in Wes Unseld Jr.'s offense? We don't really know.
Right.
Remember, Scott Brooks made him a pop guy, pick and pop guy.
Right, he did.
He developed him into an outside shooter.
Right.
Who is he under Wes Unseld Jr.'s offense? We don't really know, but
right.
We'll see what happens with Thomas Bryant for sure.
Agreed.
All right, KCP. So we're getting to some of the guys that we were talking about, KCP and then Spencer Dinwiddie. What's your take on the new guys here?
So with KCP, what I do know about him is that he's always been known to be a pretty good 3-point shooter.
And you can cover both, my dude. I ain't got no problem with that. You can cover.
Oh,
both.
Okay. So with KCP, I know he's known to be a pretty good 3-point shooter. People say that he's actually a pretty solid defender. I haven't seen too many games of him to really be able to, give my opinion on it, if he's a solid defender or not. But if they're saying that he is, that's what I'm expecting him to be. We know that our perimeter defense has been, piss poor for the last several seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm expecting him to play solid defense. This guy's a champion playing with the Lakers, so he should know what it takes to win ball games. I'm going to speak on Spencer Dinwiddie since he's next. Spencer Dinwiddie is kind of like in the same boat when it comes down to Thomas Bryant because he's recovering from an ACL injury. Can he come in and contribute? Now, he's already telling us, and it's okay because I wasn't expecting him to be that way, but he's already telling us that he's not going to be a John Wall and he's not going to be a Russell Westbrook. We know this already. But what we need him to do is show us that he can be a game manager, that he can pick his spots. Can you duplicate what you did in Brooklyn before you got hurt? That remains to be seen.
Let me ask you
this question. Duplicate that? Go ahead, bro.
Let me ask you this question, my dude. Is he a game changer?
No.
Okay. All right. Is KCP a game changer?
No.
Okay. So
can they change? Can they actually? Only thing that these guys have that works in their favor is that these two guys are veterans, so they know what it takes to win basketball games. Now, I'm not going to say these two guys are not successful, but they don't really move the needle for this team.
Right. I mean, we're gonna keep it a buck on State of the Wiz. We're gonna keep it a buck all the way 100. Look, yeah. Spencer Dinwiddie and KCP, they don't move the needle one bit. The thing is, when we talk about some of these players, like the guys that's already been here, we already know what to expect out of these guys, right? So right. We've covered guys already that we know what to expect. With the new guys, we don't know what to expect yet, but the question is, what prompted the Wizards to make these moves that they made? Is it because we believe that these guys move the needle for the guys that's already here? Or do they just fit into a system where they just become the next regular Joe Schmo? Because one thing I can tell you about Russell Westbrook, and you and I we were critical of the trade for John Wall because we felt John Wall did so much for the organization. One thing I can tell you about Russell Westbrook is the man was dynamic. And so he brought a different dynamic to the offense, and he was explosive during the game. He stood out. You needed those games from Russell Westbrook that actually propelled the Wizards to another level of being dynamic. And I just don't see that with KCP or Spencer Dinwiddie or Kyle Kuzma or Montrez O'Hara or Aaron Holiday. I don't see that.
No, I mean, what I'm seeing with these guys, since you mentioned majority of them, is these are guys that are going to be in Bradley Beal's shadow. And I think that's what these moves was all about. What players can you get to stand in his shadow? Because let's be for real, for the first 8 years, or maybe the first 6 to 7 seasons Bradley Beal has been in the league, he's been standing in somebody else's shadow, which was John Wall. Now he has a group of guys that are standing in his shadow. So with Spencer Dinwiddie, if you listen to his interviews, you could tell that he's actually choosing his words very carefully of what he's going to bring to the team because he doesn't want to ruffle any feathers. Again, this guy already said that he's not going to be Wall. He's not going to be Westbrook. And he says he believes he can fit in with Bradley Beal. He's not talking like he's going to come here and just be this dynamic player because he knows he's not a dynamic player. Now, the apologists out there, the ones who, glorifying this trade, they're going to create the narrative that he is, but in reality, he's not. So let's go to the next guy, Daniel Gafford. Now, this guy's a game changer. Proof is we saw that. Once he was traded and brought here to the Washington Wizards, he was one of the main reasons why we went 17-6. This is a game-changing player right here.
Exactly.
Not the guys that we traded for,
right?
Just recently.
Right.
Number 21, Daniel Gafford, is a game changer. Everybody knows defensively, especially in the paint, we had nobody, not even Thomas Bryant, as much energy he brings us, was really manning the paint the way Daniel Gafford was doing it. It was pretty much a known fact that whichever guard decided to drive to the basket, they had to find out where was Daniel Gafford. And we saw when he was a Chicago Bull, how he changed the game against us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, Daniel Gafford that's what I meant when I said, are these guys game changers? Because I was getting ready to go right into the fact that Daniel Gafford last season, trading him in early March, that was the game changer for the Washington Wizards and our season. You know,
Right.
he brought a different level of intensity to the game. And the bottom line is that, you know, with Daniel Gafford bringing a different level of intensity to the game, you just have to respect the guy when he comes on the floor. Not many players bring that type of attention, you know, to the team or to the game. Daniel Gafford does that. And so, you know, does Spencer Dinwiddie do that? Does KCP do that? Does Montrez O'Hara do that? If the answer is no, then, you know, we're looking at a team who is probably, you know, just hovering around the mediocre, you know, around the mediocre level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's no player that is going to be a overall game changer like Gafford was for us at the end of the season last year.
Let me just do this, my dude, and then we'll go to the next player. Let me just paint a real picture for everybody. You pulled Daniel Gafford out of the roster. We are the Washington Wizards before he was traded here. We're a lottery team. So he's a very important piece. Like, I can't think of the last time we had a center that made that much of an impact on this team. I mean, I would say he's even more important than the guys like when we had Brendan Haywood. And Brendan Haywood was a shot blocking center. You know, Eddie Jordan didn't use him properly like he should have.
Mhm.
But Daniel Gafford clearly was the game changer for this team. So that goes to the next guy. And I'm not going to be on this guy too long, pause, but Anthony Gill. He doesn't really bring anything to us. You know, from understanding, he was killing it overseas, but we haven't really seen him do much of anything since he's been a Wizard. And I think he's just a body that's just filling up a roster space. But I don't really have high expectations for him this upcoming season.
All right, cool. I mean, I don't really have much to say about Anthony Gill either, other than he needs to actually prove that he belongs on the roster. I mean, last season, you know, he showed up late in the season, and there was periods throughout the season where he actually showed some promise, and it almost seemed as if, you know, we played him we played him for matchup purposes. You know, I want him to be a player that actually stands out the season, nothing more, nothing less. Jordan Goodwin, I don't necessarily know what type of game he brings to the team. I don't even know, like you said, I don't even know if he makes the team. But I am very interested to see, because he's a two guard, you know, maybe there's promise there. But I don't know too much about Jordan Goodwin's game.
Yeah, I don't know too much about him either. I don't even know if he even makes the roster. But when we go to these next two players, I'm gonna cover Harold before I go to Hachimura. So with Harold, what I will say is this: we've seen him, and he is an energy guy. He plays bigger than what his height is. He plays like a 7-footer, even though he's 6'8". You know, we know he can grab rebounds. He's kind of like similar to Daniel Gafford, where, you know, he hangs around the basket, looks for the rebounds, do the putbacks. When he was a Laker last season, I mean, come on. I mean, a few times he he was a Clipper last season. And he murdered us.
You talking about Harold?
Yeah, Harold. He was a Clipper last season. Okay, he was a Laker. So I'm sorry. He was a Laker. But even though we won those games against the Lakers, I remember him as a Clipper, and he literally was killing us by himself.
Yeah.
Now, this guy he's actually improved where he has a decent jump shot, but he scores in the paint a lot. He hovers around the basket, gets little hook shots in, and then he definitely looks for the garbage points. And you can never have too many of those type of players. So I like what he brings to this team. He's an unrestricted free agent. I don't know how much he's going to be asking for, you know, this upcoming offseason in 2022, but he's going to definitely be playing for a contract. Then we go to Rui Hachimore. Now, this is a guy that I believe is also a game changer. Now, to the people out there who have been very critical of Rui Hachimore and talk about how inconsistent, they don't see why I believe he's a game changer. And the reason why they don't see why I believe he's a game changer is because Scott Brooks didn't showcase him enough to the point you could see it. But here's proof. When Westbrook and Bill didn't play last season, him along with Denny showed you what you can get from those guys when the balls are actually put in their hands. Rui Hachimore can easily give you 25 points to 30 points if he gets the touches. He's done it. So I believe he's definitely a game-changing type of player. Absolutely. I just hope that Wes Unseld Jr. shows that this upcoming season.
So let me touch on Rui first, and then I'll touch on Montrez O'Hara. I'll do it the opposite way that you did it. But in my opinion, if the offense was predicated around Rui, let's just say, we know that Bradley Beal loves to score the basketball. We know what Bradley Beal can do. But if you give Rui the touches, give him the opportunity to score the basketball, no doubt about it that this man's a 20+ points per game scorer. Like, right. People forget he averaged 20 at Gonzaga. Like, he's going to have a teammate now in Corey Kisper who knows exactly the type of player that the Wizards have in Rui Hachimore because he was his teammate. He played with him. He knows what he's able to do. And the thing is with Rui, and a lot of people, I'm kind of tired of hearing this, is people are constantly saying, well, I need Rui to be aggressive. I need Rui to do this. I need Rui to do that. Listen, Rui is the most underrated defender on the team. He guards the opposing team's best player every game. Not Bradley Beal. Last year wasn't Russell Westbrook either. The only player that was guarding the opposing team's best player was Rui. So Rui has the responsibility to do both, play both ends of the floor, have a defensive assignment and be able to score the basketball. And so that's a lot on a second year player. Going into his third year, let's get rid of the fact that he's not aggressive. Let's create the fact that he is going to be aggressive because we're giving him no choice to be aggressive. Right. We're giving him no other option but to be the player that we want him to be. See, I almost feel like Scott Brooks, in a sense, because we were so worried about letting Bill do what he does, let Russell Westbrook do what he does, Scott Brooks really let Rui off the hook a lot. And then when Scott Brooks needed Rui to come through and Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal was on the floor, Rui didn't, when those two guys were on the floor and we needed Rui to show up, he didn't. And then Scott Brooks would throw Rui under the bus after the game like it's Rui's fault. Like, no, that's your fault. That's your fault, Scott Brooks. Like, Rui showed up when Bradley Beal was out. You got the best version of Rui Hachimore when one of your star players was out. Yep. Why is that? Because you gave him the opportunities, you gave him the touches, and you forced him to be the aggressive player that we all know he can be. Okay? So the bottom line is that Wes Unseld Jr. hopefully understands that, and he knows that, someone like Rui, where, the American culture can be a little challenging for him. You know what I mean? Like, he even though he's a Japanese-born player and he's played at Gonzaga, he's played in systems, right? Well, to be a star in the NBA, you almost have to go rogue, and you almost have to be your own guy, and you say F all that, the American culture in us sometimes just takes over. You know what I mean? And I'm not sure if that's the disconnect in Rui or not, but I just look at it like Rui should just say, to hell with what any of y'all think, give me the ball and get the hell out of the way so I can do what I need to do.
Let me say this before you go to what you're going to say about Harrell. So with Hachimura, what I will say is the reason why he played the way he did when Bradley Beal was out is because Scott Brooks had no choice but to turn to him. In reality, I've always felt that Scott Brooks didn't really want to turn to him, but he had no choice, and he allowed Rui Hachimore to be who he is. And then this will be credit to Russ. Some people will probably say I don't give Russ any credit, but this is credit to Russ. Russ actually trusted Rui enough to include him in the offense and allow him to be who he is. Bill doesn't have that same type of trust, or it could be a little bit of jealousy, because I've always felt that Bill was jealous of Rui the moment he was drafted because of the type of star power he brought, just being a Japanese player and those expectations. But Russell Westbrook actually trusted Rui enough to allow him to be the type of player that we saw. I wish he had took that same approach when it came down to Denny, but we definitely saw that he trusted him a lot more. And again, Scott Brooks really had no choice but to turn to him.
Great point. And you know, that kind of brings me to my last point about Rui and Bradley Beal, because you just brought up Bradley Beal. You know, Bradley Beal recently came out and made a statement about him wanting Rui to be more aggressive, right? And that's kind of what I was alluding to, you know, when I was making the statement about people saying this, because I look at it like Bradley Beal was not aggressive his first 3-4 years in the league.
Agreed.
We didn't see the slashing, the get to the basket, average 5-6 free throws a game, Bradley Beal to like his 6th year in the league. Right. So Bradley Beal sometimes just gets beside himself. And I think it's only because he knows that he can. He's at a point in his career where, you know, he's polished, you know, and it literally took him 10 years to get to this point. Like, that's what people aren't factoring in. And when Rui is averaging what he's averaging in his 2nd year, guess what? Bradley Beal did the exact same thing. Bradley Beal was only averaging 18 points per game, if that, you know what I mean? So, you know, everybody pump your brakes when it comes down to Rui. Let's see if Wes Unseld Jr. gives this man the keys this season.
Okay.
Okay, so Montrez O'Hara, you know, I'm just gonna put it this way, and I'll make it brief with him. Montrez O'Hara, I'm not too concerned about. I think that he's just gonna bring a veteran leadership to this locker room that we need. And you know, him being an unrestricted free agent after the season is another is kind of like another thing as well that we have to think about, because there's no guarantee that, you know, Bryant or Montrez O'Hara, depending on how the season goes, is going to be Wizards after this season. Like, you know, there's no guarantee. I think that Montrez O'Hara's only purpose this season is to be the leader that maybe other players are lacking. Right. I don't need to call out those players. I don't need to say those names. I think you and I both knew who that person is and who those people are. Right. So I don't have no concerns. I think he'll bring the energy. He'll be that energy guy, and he'll be that veteran leader. Aaron Holiday, you know, he's a restricted free agent after next season. And same thing. I mean, you know, look, Aaron Holiday, I think is I don't think he's his brother. But I've seen where he's more defensive oriented, and you know he's a point guard that I think will add a somewhat of a different dynamic. But if it's anything like his brother, I don't really see him playing longer than 20 minutes a game, you know, with us, because the thing is he's going to be a backup point guard. So one thing about his game is that if he's not out there, you know, being a quick hitter, you know, where he's giving us 15 points off the bench like a Jay Crawford or a Lou Williams type of point guard, if he ain't doing that, he ain't gonna be playing longer than 25 minutes a game.
If that.
With
Aaron Holiday, I don't really expect too much out of him. He's going to be having a battle of his own as far as trying to be the backup point guard to Spencer Dinwiddie, which I'm going to already say it's going to be given to Howell Neto because he knows the system. I take it back because it's going to be a new system, but he's familiar with his teammates. Mm-hmm. That's what he has over Aaron Holiday. Mm-hmm. Aaron Holiday is what works to Aaron Holiday's advantage is he's 24 years old.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing. But him battling out with Howell Neto, can Aaron Holiday be a pest like Howell Neto? We don't know. You know, can Aaron Holiday hit clutch buckets like Howell Neto? I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much a question mark for this guy. I just don't expect too much out of him. I think if anything, if he does get playing time, my dude, it probably will be during garbage minutes.
Wow. So you don't even think he gets like significant minutes at all?
No, because Howell Neto is going to already have him beat.
That's interesting.
That's the reason why we signed him. Why else would we sign Howell Neto? We signed Howell Neto for a reason, because Howell Neto is familiar with the team. He already showed that he could be a solid backup point guard. We've even seen him in certain situations where he plays solid being a starter, the times that Russell Westbrook didn't play. I mean, how many games we saw him play when he started and we said, damn, you know what? We actually look better when he's in the starting lineup and he's running the point. So Howell Neto has a little bit of an advantage over Aaron Holiday. I just don't think Aaron Holiday is going to get a lot of significant minutes. He's most likely going to be at the end of the bench, and he probably will only see minutes during garbage minutes. You know, like if we either getting blown out or we blowing somebody else out.
So we signed him for him to not play?
I mean, well, we traded for him.
I mean, we traded
think about it.
Yeah, we traded for him for him to not play.
Well, think about who came along with him, bro. We got him from Indiana along with Isaiah Todd,
right,
who's a second round pick.
Right.
So, and if you look at Aaron Holiday, he's a first round pick, but the way he's been in the league, you would think he was a second round pick.
Mm-hmm.
If people expecting him to be Drew, that's not happening. I mean, I would even have to say Justin Holiday has been getting quality more minutes than Aaron has.
Yeah, so
it's like dealing with the Ball brothers, man. You got three of those guys in there, and everybody knows that LaMelo is the better one. LiAngelo is an undrafted player who's possibly going to be on Charlotte just because. But Aaron Holiday, to go back to him, you know, he's just a body. He's insurance.
So let's do something real quick. Let's click on Aaron Holiday's stats, because what I think is, you know, this is kind of what's important to me sometimes when you look at how many starts a player has had already in their third season. Right. You know, he only started 8 games last season. He's played a total of 182 games thus far in his career. He shoots a great percentage from 3, which is important. But his field goal.
Look at his field goal percentage.
Yeah, his field goal percentage is not that great. And I look at the assists, and I look at the overall amount of points that, you know, a player can give us. And here's where I'm at. I just don't think that he cracks more than 20 minutes a game, if that. Like, yeah, you may bring up a great point. Like, there's a good possibility that he doesn't play a lot because of Howell Neto.
Right, because all you got to do is click on Howell Neto. Just click on what he's done the last few years, and you kind of answer your own question with that.
Well, not
saying that you disagree, but
no, I don't disagree. But what I'm saying is that this move doesn't make any sense then, because, you know, overall, if you knew you was re-signing Howell Neto for Aaron Holiday, then why did you trade for Aaron Holiday if he's not going to play?
He's insurance, man. Think about it, bro. You know why? Do you know why? Because we got a point guard who's coming off an ACL injury. Let's keep it honest, man. I mean, who's to say that Spencer Dinwiddie is going to start off solid? Everybody is expecting him to duplicate what he did in 2019 and 2020. But this man is coming off an ACL injury. So if Spencer Dinwiddie is starting off slow, which I won't be surprised that he does, you're going to need insurance. So you're probably going to be playing Howell Neto a little bit more. And then you're going to need Aaron Holiday there just in case if Howell Neto needs a breather. Because you said it, hey, you don't believe that Spencer Dinwiddie is going to play a full 82-game season. If he's not playing a full 82-game season, you're going to need two other point guards that's going to be able to play. And that's the reason why Aaron Holiday is there. He's basically insurance.
But that's look, again, I'm not arguing with what you're saying. I just think that's crazy.
Oh, like, it's an oxymoron decision. I get it. It's dumb.
We made all these.
In reality, it's dumb and it's smart at the same time. It's dumb because we went through the trouble to get Spencer Dinwiddie, but it's also smart because we had to sign a third point guard just in case. I mean, had the Wizards took that approach during the time that John Wall was here, maybe we wouldn't have ran him through the ground the way we did. But we never really gave John Wall that kind of insurance of good, solid backup point guards. Probably the most two solid backup point guards during the John Wall era was an older, Andre Miller and I guess a mediocre Ramon Sessions. Everything else that we've had to try to back up John Wall was a project. So now to bring it into with Spencer Dinwiddie, he's coming off of an injury. So you don't know what you're going to get from him, despite what he says, despite the fact you're sitting here watching him shooting corner threes. It's a big difference if you can't transition that into the actual real basketball games. So you know what you're going to get out of Howell Neto because we saw him last season.
Right.
But you need that third guy to come here that can help just in case if Spencer Dinwiddie has to sit out, let's say for a month to recover from his ACL injury. Who's to say that at some point that maybe his ACL is just not acting right and we may just have to shut him down, which we know that would be a conversation you and I have on here that won't go too well if that happens. But it's a possibility that could happen. We've seen that from other team sports. We watched Strasburg get shut down. We watched John Wall get shut down when we thought he was healthy. So it's very possible that we could see that.
Man, and you know what, man, if that, again, you and I make these arguments all the time. This is why we say the things that we say, especially when we make these types of trades and we make these types of deals. This is why we're so critical of the type of moves that we make. Because at the end of the day, if we're going down this roster, we're going down this list and it doesn't make sense, then why are we praising it, when you look at it, with a magnifying glass? And I get it. Like, you make a good point about insurance. I agree. I think that you can't have too many position players at all. But when I look at Aaron Holiday and Howell Neto, I guess where I'm at, we had a problem with backup point guards when John Wall was here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can't have too many backup point guards now, because you probably learned your lesson from the past.
No, you got three of them total. You got a total of three backup point guards. I know people say, well, Spencer Dinwiddie is actually a starter. Yeah, he started when he played for the Brooklyn Nets, but in reality, he's more, if you look at his stats, it spells backup point guard.
Right, exactly. Wow. Three backup point guards.
That's backup point guards, man. If you put them if you take all three of them and put them together, you have a starter right there.
All right, let's move on. So, Jay Huff, undrafted.
That's all I got to say to that is Huff. I'm scoffing at him. What is more for me to say? Okay, he's a former Cavalier. That's about it. But Huff, when I watched him, his last name should be Jay Stiff, because that's what I saw when he was playing in the summer league. He looked like a stiff.
Right. Well, I don't really have much to say about him. I mean, looks like more than likely he'll be sent down to the G League. Undrafted guy though, and that's pretty much it. I doubt he makes.
Being generous. You're being very generous. More than likely he won't make the roster, bro. Just call it what it is. He won't make the roster.
Yeah,
let's go to Corey Kisper. Corey Kisper. So Corey Kisper, let me see. So you got Corey Kisper and then Denny. Denny is 6'8", Corey Kisper is 6'7". If you was going to have somebody be a shooting guard, I would probably try Corey Kisper. Now, let me say this. I kind of get where some people are saying, because I saw it last week. Oh man, he looks his shot looks very Klay Thompson like. I get it because they're looking at how the way his shot looks. It does look like Klay Thompson. If he is Klay Thompson, I'm not even mad about it being so where he's picked at. I'm not, so to your point, I'm not really concerned about Corey Kisper, but what I will say is Corey Kisper could use a John Wall because John Wall will make this guy look phenomenal. He's done it. I mean, let's not forget how phenomenal John Wall made Trevor Ariza look, how John Wall made Martell Webster look. If he was able to play alongside with Corey Kisper, man, I mean, he would make Corey Kisper look like a steal in the draft. And I'm not saying that he's a bad draft pick. It's just that there are some players that can just make something look way better than what it really is. But with Corey Kisper, he has a very good basketball IQ. His defense, I got to see a little bit more. I think he's not going to be a lockdown defender, but I think he's very good at moving his feet. Let's be for it. Gonzaga, you know, they prepare their players to go to the pros. So I will give them that. But I'm not really too concerned about Corey Kisper. But I think if he was playing alongside of a point guard like a John Wall, he'll make him look like a steal.
Corey Kispert, I just think that he fits. He'll fit into the system. He's a system player. He's not going to be somebody who stands out, and he's not going to be the superstar or the all-star that maybe Moody or Chris Duarte has the potential to be. He's going to be solid.
Exactly.
He's going to be a solid role player. That's it. He'll be a solid role player. He'll be here for a long time because he's young. He plays both ends of the court. He's a great defender. He has good size. He's 6'7", 220. And I mean, you know, I have no concerns about him. He'll be solid for a long time for us. And I think he'll fit right in whatever system Wes Unseld Jr. Provides. But what I can say though, you know, is I wished the Wizards could have traded up. You and I, we talk about this all the time. I wished that, you know, it was one of those things where, yes, we love what Kispert brings, but we're more of an aggressive franchise. We're just not going to settle for someone who's just a shooter. You know, I wish that happened. Who knows?
Right.
Who knows what the future may hold? You know, Kispert, even though I said he may be here a long time, he may not. You know, he's still young. You know, he'll have a lot of value for a long time. You look at the likes of Joe Harris, JJ Redick's of the world, Kyle Korvers of the world. You know, those guys, you know, they're gonna pick up a job wherever they go. So
oh yeah, I mean, when you put them in that category, you're right. I mean, you mentioned Kyle Korver, you know, you mentioned like the guys like Wally Zerbiak, Mike Miller. Those guys had a longevity type career in the NBA as just being shooters. So could Corey Kispert be that guy? Yeah, he can be. You know, he can definitely contribute to a team that's going to win a championship. I mean, we saw it in Kyle Korver. You know, how he did it with playing for Cleveland and, you know, everywhere he played, you know, he contributes. So I could see that in Corey Kispert. I didn't mean to cut you off. Let me go to Kyle Kuzma because I got to. So Kyle Kuzma, this is going to be about the third time we talk about this guy. This guy has been linked to the Wizards. Now, I have to kill this narrative that I'm seeing a lot of people are saying about Kyle Kuzma, where they're thinking that this guy is going to be he's going to be it. Now, I know what they're looking at. They're looking at that he's 6'9" and he's 220 pounds. They're looking at his measurements. And he's a fourth-year player. But Kyle Kuzma is a guy that thinks he's better than what he is. He's a system guy. So let me ask you this question, DCan. Do you think Kyle Kuzma could be a 3-and-D type guy for the Washington Wizards?
No. I don't put him in any category that places him above a tier 3. I don't think that he's a guy that you know, look at Jason Tatum. Remember there used to be a time where he was compared to Jason Tatum. And
Yep.
people said, Kuzma's the better player than Tatum. We know that Kuzma at this point, we know he's not a Tatum. We know that he's not that type of player where he's a go-to guy and he's going to give you 27. The fact of the matter is, if he was, he would have did it already. He would have done it. He's too streaky. He's a guy that, may show you he has the potential to average that, but then he falls off. In LA, he would give you 27 one game, and then he'll turn around and give you 7 the next game. So he's not consistent. That's his problem. His problem is he's not consistent.
So when you saying that, then shouldn't Bradley Beal be saying that to Kyle Kuzma? I need you just to be more aggressive. I need you to be more consistent.
Absolutely.
You should be saying that to him,
right,
and not saying that to Rui Hachimore, because, Kyle Kuzma, I think I saw somewhere where he said that I guess LeBron James lied to him about something. I guess maybe his stint being on the Lakers. But Kyle Kuzma's name has been linked to us before LeBron James even became a Laker. So the Laker organization wasn't sold on him a long time ago. And it's mind-boggling. I mean, I'm surprised. I mean, he's getting ready to go into his 5th year in the league. But Kyle Kuzma is who he is. What you see of him, he is who he is. He's just a guy that is going to play good some games and play okay some games. Now, since you put that up, here's what people are stuck on. They're looking at his first 2 seasons in the league. So they're looking at the 2017, 2018, 2019 season. Now, those 2 seasons, the Lakers was terrible. They were not a good team. You had no LeBron. Kobe wasn't playing. They were terrible. So, of course, he's putting up those type of numbers. But then look what happens. 2019, 2020, you see a drop-off. You see him stake around the same amount even in the 2020, 2021 season. So, Wiz Nation, what I'm going to have to ask you is, what are you looking at that you think that he's going to come here and he's automatically just going to turn into a poor man's Jason Tatum? If you're looking at the first 2 years that he's been in the league, go look at the roster of those 2 years and tell me, why do you think he was putting up that type of numbers?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at this and I could tell you, right out the gate that the first 2 years he played more minutes. He started more games, and he shot significantly better from the floor. So, maybe more opportunity gives him, more confidence. And, but what I'm not seeing is this. I'm not seeing the incline. I'm seeing this. I'm seeing the decline. And
well, yeah, I mean, you see it not because you see, like, his first season. Just look at his free throw percentage. His first season, he shot 70%. You see an incline his second season at 75. But then here comes the decline. He drops down to 73%. And then he drops below 70% to 69%. So you're seeing a decline, to your point. Like, he goes up and then all of a sudden it's like a seesaw, he's going down. So to your point, yeah, maybe more opportunities. But again, he's a free agent after the 2023 season. Maybe Kyle Kuzma comes out and play out of his mind because maybe he wants to go to a team that he feels he can contribute to help win a championship. I mean, the guy is a champion. He's coming from a team that is a favorite to be in the finals to a team that is possibly favorites to be in a damn play-in.
Yeah, I'm not sure what, what his goals are. I mean, I know every player's goal is to win a championship, but Kyle Kuzma definitely wasn't the reason the Lakers won that championship for sure. I mean, he's a champion, but
absolutely not.
I mean, I need to see more. I need to see more leadership from him. If he's ever going to be the guy that people thinks he's going to be, then I need to see him take over this season. I need to see games where it's him and it's only him. And he's showing people like, look, this is the player that you guys said that I could be one day. That's what I need to see out of Kuzma. I'm not giving him, that many flies. He can get one, but he ain't gonna get a whole bundle of them right now. I can tell you that right now.
Nah. I think because he's 26 years old, so he's entering his prime years. So
Mhm.
he has to pick it up. So we've already talked about how Neto. So last and definitely not least is Isaiah Todd. I see G League. And I'm not mad about it. I mean, he's 19 years old. He was a second round pick. The organization, they really like him because they signed him to a 4-year contract. So they're invested in this kid. I hope that they do him right by allowing him to develop in the G League. But you and I have spoke about it as well, because we just talked about it recently offline. They could have stayed put with Isaiah Jackson, who's a shot blocker. Now, we just got finished talking about insurance when it comes down to point guards. They should have took that same approach when it comes down to a center, because we do have a center coming off an ACL injury in Thomas Bryant, who was a starter. You definitely could have used Isaiah Jackson to be a shot blocker, who I saw a little bit of highlights from him in the summer league, and I'm like, damn, why did we trade him for Isaiah Todd? Like, I mean, we moved the wrong Isaiah.
Well, we traded him for Aaron Holiday to get Isaiah Todd, or get that draft pick to draft Isaiah Todd. But to your point, yes, we got the wrong Isaiah for sure. We definitely did. I mean, I don't really I'm going to reserve my right on Isaiah Todd. I think that based off of what I saw in the summer league, he definitely is raw. He just has a lot to learn. Just a lot of growth there, and someone like Isaiah Jackson, he's ready, he's ready. Indiana got someone who is ready out the gate. We drafted him and we traded that guy away. And now we got to watch him, become a great player in Indiana. We got to watch Chris Duarte become a great player as well in Indiana, while we watch Aaron Holiday and Isaiah Todd in the G League.
All right, my dude, let me ask you this question, because you said something. So what bothers me is this, Chris Duarte is an NBA ready player. You're looking at Kuminga, and he is dynamic. Okay. You're looking at Moody, he's NBA ready. Isaiah Jackson is NBA ready. What in the hell were we thinking on draft night? What were we thinking? Because you have, if you're really trying to convince, and of course, where I stand at when it comes down to Bradley Beal, but let's just speak positive just for this moment. If you're really trying to convince Bradley Beal that you're trying to win ball games and actually compete, why you didn't draft some of these players? Well, for one, we know why they didn't go after Kuminga and Moody, because Bradley Beal was the piece that was going to have to go to get those players. But to go to Chris Duarte, why didn't we move up in the draft to get Chris Duarte?
It's the biggest question mark, I think, in the modern right now with the modern Wizards. It's the biggest question mark. Why they didn't do it, not sure. You had so many opportunities to draft your future and draft your replacements. We could touch on Chris Duarte being the replacement for Bradley Beal. We could touch on the replacement of Jalen Suggs being a replacement for Russell Westbrook. I mean, you had guys there that could be your future. And it would be perfect, because all these guys is around the same age, 23, 24, 22 years old. There's no reason at this point to hold on to Bradley Beal. If Bradley Beal is here in his career, the rest of the team is here. His expectations is not meeting at this level. His expectations is wanting everybody else to meet him here. And truth of the matter is everyone else is not there because they don't have the experience yet. They're too raw. They're too young. Okay, so I'm not understanding why the Wizards organization just didn't say it's time to turn the page regardless of how Bradley Beal feels.
I agree. And I think that's the reason why they made the moves that they did, because they didn't draft Chris Duarte. They didn't move up to draft Chris Duarte for a reason, because that would have told Bill, okay, well, if you decide you're going to leave, we already got somebody that can be your replacement.
Exactly.
Same thing with Moody. I mean, when I did on my podcast, the last one that I did, when I was reading about Moody, everything that I read about him was Bradley Beal, him slashing to the basket, him picking his spots. But one thing that I did read about him that wasn't Bradley Beal is him actually playing defense. That's something Bill doesn't do. So, right. and he also crashes the offensive glass. That's something else Bill doesn't do. But this guy he's NBA pro ready. Kuminga, able to put the ball on the floor. He's a 4 that can put the ball on the floor. I watched the highlight when he crossed somebody up. I mean, come on, man. Like, how could we not want that? And
we didn't draft on skill. We drafted on need.
We didn't draft on skill. We definitely drafted on need. We drafted on need of, well, we need to get this player to show Bill that we're actually not trying to piss him off. Again, like I said, this team has a bunch of players that's going to stand in his shadow. Mm-hmm. There's nobody that's really going to stand out that's going to threaten Bradley Beal at all. And that's what this offseason was all about. Let's not piss this man off. Let's get players that's going to have to stand in his shadow. Mm-hmm. And then that's that. And that's the frustrating part as a Wizards fan.
I definitely agree with you. So we're going to take this next about 10 minutes or so to talk about the schedule, and then we'll wrap this up. So okay. we got the schedule. Schedule came out today. When I'm looking at this schedule based off of the games that the Wizards are looking at, to me, I don't see why this team isn't 500 by December. But then when you look towards the middle of the schedule, you have teams that are 9 times out of 10 going to be contending. You got the Celtics, you got the Nets, of course, in January. You got the Sixers there. You got the Blazers. And then in February, you turn around playing the Bucks, the Suns, the Heat, the Nets again, right? Exactly. Ooh. Okay, and then check this out. So check this out, because like I said, there should be no reason why we're not at least 500 come December. But check out March: Clippers, Lakers, Blazers, Warriors. There's that West Coast. Lakers again, Bucks. Okay. Warriors.
I'm gonna say this, bro. Let me stop you right now, bro. Let me stop you right now, because you're looking at the month of March. The only winnable game that I'm seeing is the Pistons and the Chicago Bulls.
That entire month?
No, not Chicago Bulls. I'm sorry, correction, the Magic. And I know people gonna say, well, what about the Rockets? You don't think they could beat the Rockets? I'm not too sure. The Rockets are, you got John Wall, who's going to be out to prove something, try to prove something. Jalen Green feels that he should have been the number 1 pick. You got Kevin Porter Jr. on there. I mean, they got a nice little nucleus. But when I'm looking at this month of March, it's very brutal. It's brutal before we even go out on our West Coast trip. And, when you go out on the West Coast, you're looking at that. I could easily see us losing every last one of those games. Every last one of them out west.
So you said 2 games. So it's 16 games in the month of March. You saying that's looking like a 2-14 month for the Wizards?
It could probably either go 3-15 at the max, man. Because with the Pacers, even though you look at their roster,
3-13.
Well, 3-13. I'm sorry. So even with the Pacers, they're a mediocre team, but really those are the teams that we're going to be battling against. We're going to be battling against the Pacers. We're going to be battling against the Hornets. We're going to be battling against Chicago, of trying not to be a play-in team. Like, I've seen a few predictions from fans, not Wizards fans, but just other folks, NBA fans, that don't even have us in the top 8. They actually have us hovering anywhere between 9 and 11 in the East.
Yeah. I'm looking at the schedule, man, and you're absolutely right. The month of March is probably going to be the toughest part of the schedule, no doubt. Like,
well, go back to December, if you don't mind.
Yeah. No, well, let me go all the way back because I skipped ahead, but I wanted to talk about let's go to October. No, wait, hold on. Sorry about that. So October, where do you see where we were finishing in October, based off these games? How do we start the season? So we got the Nets. You see that. We got the Celtics. You see that. We got the Celtics twice. Raptors, Pacers are probably, toss-ups based off of the fact that they're kind of in the same boat we're in.
Yeah. The first month, maybe I only see 2 wins, and that's the Raptors and the Pacers. That's it. Okay. I don't see us beating the Nets. We don't have enough firepower.
Okay. So then let's turn over to November and December. You said let's go to December. There you go.
We're going to lose to the Hawks. We may beat the Raptors. We're going to lose to the Grizzlies because they know how to beat us. The Bucks will lose that game. We can beat the Cavs. We can beat the Magic. It's a toss-up with the Pelicans. The Hornets, I think we could possibly choke on that one. We'll get swept by the Heat. We may redeem ourselves at home against the Hornets. May still win on the road against the Pelicans. I cannot see why we don't demolish the Thunder because they're not a good team. The Mavericks, they're going to most likely beat us. And even though the San Antonio Spurs don't look appealing, we don't win against them either because Greg Popovich is a hell of a coach that he could even turn straight dog doo-doo and make those guys beat us. Then when you go into December, the Timberwolves, we should be able to beat them. The Cavaliers again, the Raptors. But then also, too, we got to think, bro. Some of these teams that we're sitting there saying that we may win, some of those teams could possibly make a trade that can change their whole season. So you just never know what could happen. But I think this is what I will say. The month of October, the month of November are 2 critical months for this franchise. Because first of all, October comes, you and I have already said that Bradley Beal is not going to re-up with the team. But if we come out slow in October and we're struggling in November, round by the time we get to December, depending on how the way things are going, Bradley Beal is going to already have his mind made up. You know what? I think I want to go somewhere else. Yeah. And it's very critical. It's very critical for this team. But again, I just don't see us as a playoff team because, to your point, Bradley Beal's expectations are so high up, but you got other players who are under 25 years old that are just getting their feet wet. And he's asking these guys, I need you to meet me here. I'm a 3-time All-Star. I'm 3rd All-NBA. I need you to get up there. It's unrealistic.
It very well is. I mean, I'm not even going to sit here and act like this schedule is favorable at all. This schedule is not favorable. But the reason why I said I don't see why we shouldn't finish, or at least not finish, we shouldn't. We should be somewhere around 500 because when I look at the start, some of these games we could steal these games. Like we could steal the game at home against the Hawks and the Celtics. We could steal games like the Grizzlies at home, the Raptors at home. We these games we could probably steal. Bucks we could probably steal. We could probably steal this Heat game. A lot of these games that we are not favored, if we play well enough at home, we should win those games. But then you start, you turn it over into December, and then you turn it over into January. When you start looking at, this is a favorable part of the schedule, right? So we got more home games in January, okay? But the problem is you got to see the Nets again, okay? You're going to see the Celtics again. So some of these teams are going to make adjustments. And what we know to be true in the past is that, the games that we steal, they come back and they beat us the next game. Right. Whitman was very great at making adjustments, and Scott Brooks wasn't. So I'm not expecting next season to go our way in adjustment games.
Okay. So your prediction, when you look at this schedule all the way up until April, where do you see the Wizards finishing at in the 2021-2022 season?
So based off of looking at the schedule, we're probably looking at a 30-win season.
Ooh.
And we have to kind of, Tommy Shepard said that, we weren't happy at finishing where we finished last season. Granted, nobody was, but this upcoming season, by looking at the schedule, I can't say with complete confidence that we're even going to meet the total wins that we had last season. Unless we can beat some of these teams and prove that we are a great basketball team by February, by the trade deadline, and we don't make no moves. That's the only way my thought process changes. But right now, it's not looking good. It's not looking
well. Good. I would have to say this. I think that we can win anywhere between maybe 32 to 37 games this upcoming season. But what I think is going to be very, very important is going to be the health of Dinwiddie, the health of Thomas Bryant. How healthy are these guys? Again, I can't stress it so many times. These are two players that are coming off of ACL injuries. So, you have to see if these guys are 100% healthy, despite what they say, despite what the highlights of you seeing them shooting in an empty gym. Anybody can look good in an empty gym, but can it translate into a real game? What kind of system is Wes Unseld Jr. going to have? He's basically going to focus on defense. He's already said that. He said offense is not the issue, it's defense. So in order for us to win games, we got to play defense. And again, it goes back to number 3. Does he buy into that? Does he understand that maybe Wes Unseld doesn't need you to go out there and score 31 points a game? He will be satisfied if you score 25. Are you okay with that? Are you okay with, using some of that energy that you use on offense to actually try to slow down your opponent? Rui doesn't have no problem. Rui can give us 25 points and still play solid defense on the best player on the team. I mean, he's guarding LeBron. He's guarding, Kawhi. He's guarding, Giannis. These are guys that Bradley Beal doesn't have to worry about.
Right.
So I think what's going to be key is, will some of these players buy into the system? I think the young guys will, but will the captain of the team, the face of the franchise, is he going to buy into it? If he buys into it, then there's a possibility. But also we had to keep in mind, the Eastern Conference has gotten better. And that's the reason why I'm kind of critical of what we're going to do this upcoming season, because it would be foolish for me to ignore the moves that Charlotte made, the moves that the Chicago Bulls made, the moves that the Knicks made. They made solid moves. And these are not gimmies. Even when I look at a team like Houston, they're young, but any given night, you can lose to them too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why the still games are most important. That's why I was saying, we already know some of those other teams that we're going to be floating around with the Knicks, with the Bulls, with the Magic, with the Raptors, those little bottom feeder teams. Like, we already know we're going to be floating with those teams. And those teams those games are toss-ups. Like, we can't say that we're extremely better than any one of those teams. The Hornets, right. We're not extremely better than any of those teams. So it's important this season that the games that people don't expect us to win, that we win those games. And what's important is that, yes, we have to take care of the games that we are expected to win on top of that.
I agree. Like I said, what's going to be key is, health and, players actually buying into the system that Wes Unseld Jr. is going to put out there. Now, here's what I will say. If we have a losing season, I'm not going to be upset because I'm expecting us to have a losing season. We have a head coach who's brand new, who's going to be trying to put his stamp on the team. So I think it's only right that we allow him to do that. I'm not going to hold him to the same standards as Scott Brooks because, for one, Wes Unseld Jr. is not inheriting the team that Scott Brooks had inherited at the time he became a head coach. We're pretty much in a rebuild. We just have one player that's still left on this team that kind of said that we're not in a full rebuild. But in reality, we are in a rebuild. We just need to move this guy to make it official. Yeah. But my expectations this upcoming season is we're probably going to have a losing season. It's going to probably be painful to watch, but I think it's going to be exciting to watch when you can see Denny get an opportunity that he didn't get. Rui gets the opportunities that he didn't receive, and so forth and so forth. That's what's going to make the season more exciting, to actually see the young guys get the leash taken off of them for a change and they'll be able to kind of play versus watching Bradley Beal go out there, put up 30, 40, 50, and 60 for a damn loss.
Agreed 100%. I'm looking forward to the growth and the maturation of Rui and the growth of Denny and just watching the young guys just, become their own player. That's what I'm looking forward to. So anyway, so that pretty much wraps up this episode. We kind of went over time, my dude, but you know how it is when you and I get together, man. We just love talking Wizards hoops, and this is great. I think overall, based off of what we've done the first two episodes, we've been doing a fantastic job, and I think we just need to keep this thing going.
Yeah, let me say this to the fans that are actually watching, our subscribers. Myself and D-Cam, we've known each other since 2005, and when we get to talking Wiz, we don't really sugarcoat. We don't hold back. We hold the team accountable, and that's what we're doing. We're not going to say the things that are favorable. If you notice, we're not all on the Spencer Dinwiddie is going to be the player that's going to take us over the top. We just sat here and said that he doesn't move the needle. He's not a game changer. We've mentioned who that game changer is, and his name is Daniel Gafford. We believe that Rui Hachimore can be a game changer if allowed the opportunities, which I believe he will have those opportunities this upcoming season. So we're just not going to sit here and follow the peanut gallery and make excuses. Those days are over.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said. So we'll definitely wrap this up and catch you guys on the next episode of State of the Wizards. Again, make sure you follow DC Hoopla and you follow Wiz Takes. And we will see you guys on the next episode of State of the Wiz. Thank you guys for tuning in. You guys have a blessed day.